Good Thursday morning. Sal Licata in for Boomer. Fleegs in for Al again. Zoo in for Eddie. CeeLo, you just heard on the warm-up show, in for Jerry as we head towards the weekend in this giant series between the Mets and Braves. It was a very annoying loss for the Yankees yesterday. Does it mean much? I don't think so. Do you really want to look into Garrett Cole's performance and project that into the postseason because the Mariners are a good team? I'm not ready to do that. That was miserable yesterday, but I'm not ready to say that that's what we're going to get from Garrett Cole in the postseason. You know, the Mets yesterday, of course, jump out to that massive lead, and then, of course, Givens comes in, your one bolster bullpen move, and basically gives it up. It was funny watching him, not knowing a lot about him. It's just funny watching his delivery and getting smoked. He turns his back a little bit and just turns around and whap, home run, whap, home run. Hopefully he's better than that. But it got me thinking now that these are the rosters, and you just mentioned at the end of the warm-up show. And good morning, Sal. How are you?
Good morning.
You said you think that the Yankees are going to win the American League.
Yeah.
What is the acceptable minimum for these fan bases, for these teams, now that we are post-trade deadline? And my answer for that is the Yankees have to make it to the World Series.
Minimum.
And, the acceptable minimum.
Right.
The Yankees have to make it to the World Series, and the Mets have to make it to the NLCS. The Mets cannot bow out prior to the NLCS this year, and the Yankees have to make it to the World Series. And anybody who tries to tell me that they would be happy with anything less than that, I challenge them to call me when that happens. If the Yankees are out prior to the World Series or the Mets are out prior to the NLCS, you are going to be pissed off because these teams are that good, and that's what we deserve from them in 2022?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess I never thought it through from the Mets' perspective. It's different, right, coming into the year where the Mets are trying to establish themselves as a top team. So, under the new ownership of Steve Cohen, they're finally back in the conversation again for being a good team. They have been a good team. I never thought about how far would be acceptable. And I do think there are different, what's the end game? Does DeGrom remain healthy? Is Scherzer fully good to go in the postseason? I think that changes things. How, let's say the Mets do lose in the first round of the postseason, how does that play out? I'll tell you this, right now, I mean, they have to win the division.
Oh,
and
yeah.
If they don't win, but it's not just, they made the playoffs. No. If the Mets at this point, and really dating back months, if they did not, and maybe even coming in the year, if they were not a division-winning team, to me, that would have been a disappointment. Clearly, expectations change. But with the Yankees, I think it's bare minimum that they make the World Series. I thought that was always the case. And then the way that they started the year, you're thinking, well, now they got to win the damn thing. Like, it's time for the Yankees. It shouldn't just be about getting there. They got to win it. But I would accept if the Yankees get to the World Series, take your chance to see what happens. With the Mets, I'm not sure if I have an exact series on it. I think it's more about winning the division and then seeing what happens from there.
Well, I feel like most very good Met teams at least make it to the NLCS. 2016 was the last time that we saw them bow out early in a postseason. But if you think about it, 2015 all the way to the World Series.
Well, their history.
Right, their history is when they get in, they're generally at least making some noise.
They usually go on a run. They don't make it a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
But even if they're not, 99, they gave you that great run. You mentioned, obviously, 2000, they go to the World Series. 15, same thing. We're talking about even 2006, they won a series. Like, usually the Mets, if they go in, outside of that wild card, they win around.
Right, so that's what we're used to. So that's what I need to see, especially because, regular seasons like this don't happen. I mean, this is the thing that I'm trying to, when we were talking about, going into the trade deadline, we've gotten used to it now because they have been good from the get-go. We've gotten used to the fact that this team's going to win 2 out of 3. They're occasionally going to sweep a series. They're going to be very, very good. It's almost like we're taking it for granted, where we need to pull ourselves back and go, this season in Mets history is rare.
Right.
So that's why anything less than an LCS appearance. Now, if they end up losing to the Dodgers or the Padres go crazy, and last night, I don't know what you want to say about the first time that these guys are in the lineup and they're mashing. If you want to project that to them winning the World Series, go ahead. I won't do that with the Padres. But if they end up losing to a better team in the NLCS after what we went through last year and the big improvements this year, I'll take it because I do believe that they're on the right track. But anything less than that is really going to annoy me because I'll feel like it's a wasted season.
Yeah, if they don't win the division, I would be livid. If they lose in the first round after winning the division, I don't know if I would be livid. Like I said, I think I'd be disappointed, especially when you talk about the matchup. Like you said, if they're playing the Brewers or the Cardinals, they're going to be the favorites. You would expect them to win. So that's kind of the point, right? When we look at the odds or where they've, this team, where would it max out or where would it start to overachieve or get into bonus territory? I think for them, minimum win the division, and to your point, they'd be favorites in the first round. After that, they probably wouldn't be a favorite if they were to take on the Dodgers or Padres. Who knows about what it would be like with the Braves. And by the way, a lot of that could change with seeding from now until the end of the year. But yeah, I think the expectation is right now that the odds are that they should be in the NLCS.
And there's 2 times that I can remember in our lifetime where I felt like the Mets lost to a team that wasn't as good as they were.
06 for sure.
Yep.
88.
Yep, those are the 2. Those are the 2. And those are as frustrating. Now, I was very young in 88, but I mentioned that was my first sports memory. Of course it was them losing. It wasn't them winning 2 years prior, but it was them losing. In 1988, I remember being emotional about it, and then my mom trying to tell me that it was okay because it was just sports and everything's going to be all right.
They'll get them next year.
Yeah, right.
Fast forward to 2022.
Sure, right. Yeah, what can you tell me about the 1989 Mets right now? But anyway, and then 2006 was just absolutely infuriating. And I know that team had holes, and I know that the starting rotation wasn't great, but to be in that building and watch Jeff Suppan do what he did, and then, of course, Carlos Beltran, we can go over and over again. But but those things stick with you more than when a team maxes out.
Well, it's a good way to look at it, right? Because you think back, and it's easier to do with the Mets than the Yankees because...
Oh, there's just so many years.
Right. I mean, pick a year. I mean, the Yankees are in the playoffs, throw a dart at the board. I mean, the Yankees are in the playoffs every single year, and sure, there have been some disappointments, but, I mean, come on. They've won more than they've lost. You think about, all the World Series in that dynasty, but with the Mets, they stick out like a sore thumb because they don't make it a lot. 99, they maxed out, losing to the Braves in that Game 6 there. 2000, losing to the Yankees in the World Series. They weren't as good. I never thought the 2015 team was that good. Blew through the Cubs like a buzzsaw, and then losing to the Royals. It's disappointing. 16, again, what did you expect? They were lucky to make the playoffs. So it's not like they didn't underachieve or lose a series that you expected them to win. 06 was the bad one for me. 88, I was a little too young to really fully appreciate. But, of course, historically, you look back, that was a disappointing one. Mike Scioscia and the Mets should have gotten, Mike Scioscia doing a, Doc dirty there. Mets should have gotten back to another World Series, and they didn't. And 06 for sure, where maybe if they lost the World Series in 06, it would have been different. Maybe, because I still think that they were favorites, right? You would expect them to be the Tigers.
I thought that they were going to go and they were going to win the World Series if they got through the Cardinals. I was convinced. Now, we're never going to know. But I was convinced if they won that Game 7.
06 team, clearly the best team, and your fandom, our lifetimes, outside of the young, 6, 7-year-old, whatever.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, 99, even though the Mets went farther in 2000, that 99 team I thought was really, really good.
I love that 99 team.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. 99, 2016.
But they dominated in 06.
They did. I mean, they won the division. I remember that, the Willie Rand celebration. It was like middle of September and then winning the division. Yeah, I'd probably say that. But then I think about, some of the guys on that team, you think back to the names and the rotation, especially. John Maine, Oliver Perez. You're thinking about these guys. You're like, that's not a great baseball team, which goes to my point earlier yesterday, where I think that big name pitching sometimes in the postseason we talk about too much, where there's a lot of other guys that step up in big situations that we don't talk about as much. But yeah, I would probably say 2006.
And it also plays to the point how good they are this year.
Yeah, exactly.
You take this roster. Well, the lineup in 06 was significantly better.
Sure.
And I know their pitching got hurt. Pedro not there, El Duque not there in the postseason, losing Duenar Sanchez. But you take this rotation clearly over that one. Even the bullpen. I mean, you take this one over that one, especially with Edwin Diaz being as lights out. And I think their lineup is not as good, but they're top 4. And now, look, you add in Vogel back, and if Ruff could give you something, they maybe have you lengthen it out a little bit. McNeil batting down in the order. They have a good lineup, too. I think this is it. I mean, by record, by performance, by watching it, by really all accounts, this is one of the best Mets teams that we've seen.
That's why, and I know, and I should probably be saying, making it to the World Series is the acceptable minimum, but I understand how good the National League is. I mean, you got the defending World Series champion in your division. You've got the team that is probably the deepest and most talented, 2 of them out in the West, and the Dodgers, and the Padres. I mean, those are just very, very good teams. So I can't, if you ended up losing, if the Mets, played their best and ended up losing to, well, not the Braves. They can't lose to the Braves.
Right,
they're better than the Braves this year.
No, Padres or Dodgers probably the only acceptable loss.
Right, yeah, then I would say, and I don't know how it's going to work out with seeding and everything else and what will be possible. But, yeah, Padres and Dodgers, you would probably say, if they played their best. It's one of those things. You don't want them to show up and then to be a shell of themselves in whatever series it is.
Two things I want to ask you. One, well, I mean, we get into the Mets Braves throughout the course of the show, but it just made me think of it. Because you talk about the National League being significantly, to me, it's deeper and more challenging than the AL, with the Yankees, what they have to look at. You think the Mets are better than the Yankees? Or if you don't want to answer that question directly, put the Yankees in the NL.
I will. No, I think that the Yankees are better. But, of course, their record would be different if they were in the National League. But
so forget the record.
Look at the AL East is pretty damn good. I mean, if you look at the records in there, there's nobody top to bottom that's better than the AL East.
Forget the record, because by record the Yankees are. And I didn't even realize, I was looking at the standings yesterday, the Dodgers actually have a better record. 3, I think it was, as of yesterday afternoon, 3 fewer losses than the Yankees. If you put the Yankees in the National League, we're looking at the Mets saying, okay, division series. We're looking at Dodgers, Padres.
I would put them ahead of the Mets. I would probably say, they'd be in the same conversation. The Astros and the Yankees are in the same conversation to me as the Dodgers and the Padres. But the Dodgers more so because the Padres really haven't done it yet. We're just kind of projecting with them.
Correct.
So, I mean, and then you have to give the respect to the Braves, but I don't think they're nearly the same team as they were last year, despite how good they've been. But I don't look at them necessarily like I did last year when they were going on this run.
Agreed, and we'll learn a lot about them over these next
5
days.
games.
I mean, this is it for them. Look, the Mets could get away with losing 2 of or losing 3 of 5 here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think they are gonna. I think this is where the Mets send the message and pull away. I just have that feel. I think they're better. They're loaded up right now. Marte, McNeil back, DH spot set, McCann coming back, May is back, DeGrom is back.
Yeah.
Like they're and I know the Braves made some nice additions. The Mets are a significantly different ball club than the team that took 2 of 3 in Atlanta. But anyway, I actually, and this is not to a lean Mets thing. If the Mets sucked, I'd tell you. I feel like because of DeGrom and Scherzer, you could throw in Walker and Bassett in a postseason series. And I have great respect for what the Yankees have been able to do this year. And they've struggled for a month. The bullpen is kind of out of sorts, even though they added to it. Their starting rotation is a little bit of a jumbled mess right now. Their lineup is good and powerful and deeper than maybe the Mets, but I don't know if it's as consistent or as clean. The Mets have the better manager. I think the Mets are better. Yeah,
it's hard for me to say right now because you remember, too, I mean, the Mets had that stretch, too, where they were playing about 500 ball for 3 weeks, the better part of a month in June.
So it's just a bad stretch, you think?
Yeah, it was bound to happen. It was either that or they're going to win 130 games.
Right, which
is
not.
It was bound to even out. I mean, what are the real problems with the Yankees that you don't feel totally confident in who's going to be closing out the most important games down the stretch and in the postseason? I mean, I think that's a real problem. Even though Clay Holmes has been great, I don't necessarily trust him, especially with his control issues. That's a real problem. Is Garrett Cole a real problem? I'm not ready to say that. I mean, he gives you these clunkers, and there's times where he scares the hell out of you, but the expectations for him because of his contract and who he was in Houston the prior year, there's unrealistic expectations for him to be great every single time. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think that's a real problem. But rotation depth, it is a problem right now for them. And that's when you go back to the Montgomery deal and wondering why exactly it happened. And then has Severino, you're not going to see till the middle of September. I think that's a problem. But the lineup, as long as it stays healthy, is in no way a problem for the Yankees.
Right, and I think look, and they still have to prove it in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like I said, Judge get at 70 in the regular season. If he doesn't do anything in the division series and the Yankees
doesn't
get bounced,
matter.
that's
Nobody's
going to
remember.
But I think you touched on why I probably feel at this point, Because I've always believed my whole life the key to building a successful team, and I know it hasn't played out like this necessarily, especially over the last several years, but I want a known top of the rotation starter, number one. You don't need 2 or 3, and the Mets happen to have that, but I want a number one, and I want a lockdown back end of the bullpen.
Sure.
The Mets right now, with DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, Walker, are set as far as the rotation goes. The Mets have Edwin Diaz, who's been the best closer in the game. They're set with that. The Yankees, I don't feel as comfortable. I'm not dismissing what Clay Holmes has done, but to your point, I don't trust him. And he's been good, but he hasn't been as dominant as Diaz. I think you could say maybe you don't trust Diaz in the postseason either because of the unknown, but I'm not there with Edwin Diaz as hard as that may be to believe. And with Cole, it's the same thing. I don't trust him yet. I don't trust him as that lockdown and nobody else behind him. Yeah, Montez and Cortez are good, but in comparison to Scherzer, DeGrom, Bassett, Walker?
Yeah, the other thing about the offense, too, I mean, the Yankees still are more of an all-or-nothing team. I mean, and the Mets' offense travels. I mean, that's just the way that it is. I mean, you talk about hits, talk about how you're scoring runs, talk about being able to score without the home run. I mean, that's another thing I think is going to help them out in the postseason. So, yeah, I mean, I could see that point. I don't want to dismiss what the Yankees have done this year.
Look, I said I think they're going to the World Series. I guess the point was just you put them in the National League.
It's a different story.
Or you could say put the Mets in the American League, and I still think the Mets would be, third. I know, like I said, I feel like they're better, but they have a lot to prove. I mean, the Yankees have been a mainstay. The Astros obviously been a mainstay. They need to prove that they could do it. But I think if you put the Yankees in the National League, I would not be saying, well, they're going to win the National League the way that I am. I think they're going to win the American League.
Do you think, and I know it's hard to speak for the entire fan base, especially a team like the Mets, there's so many fans, there's so much passion there, but do you think that most fans are going to be happy with them just making the playoffs or just winning the division? Because I don't think so. I think that most people are going to be with us and thinking that you better at least make it to the NLCS with this team because these opportunities don't come around all that much. I mean, how many times we talked about, back in 2015, this team is so young. 2006, Wright and Reyes are so young.
About to take over the town.
Right,
yeah.
And then it never happens again.
Right.
So that's why you got to capitalize. And I'm not saying just making it to the NLCS is capitalizing on the opportunity, but it's a hell of a lot more interesting and fun of a ride, and you feel like you've accomplished something than getting knocked out prior to that.
I think fans are always disappointed if the team doesn't win the World Series. I think fans are always disappointed if a team doesn't max out. The Rangers are a great example this year, where they didn't get to the Cup final, disappointing, but they maxed out. As a matter of fact, they more than maxed out.
Lost to a better team.
Like if they lost to Pittsburgh in round one, problem. Once they beat Pittsburgh, you could have lived with a loss to Carolina.
Sure.
And then once they get past that, now it's like, this season is gravy here. Mm-hmm. So will the Met fan be disappointed being back in the postseason for the first time since 2016? Even if they lose in the first round, I think initially they'll be bothered, but ultimately, hey, it was a great year, winning the division, getting to the postseason. Look at the roster, look at where we're at with Steve Cohen owning things. I think ultimately the Met fan will be more excited about the future than disappointed.
But we've been there before. And that's my point.
Not with this owner, though.
Yeah, I know. You're right. But, I mean, there was rosters that we loved. There was guys that we thought were going to be numbers were going to be retired.
Think about what followed in 06.
Yeah, again, 2 miserable ends of the season.
Like as bad as you could get in 07.
And then 08, even more sort of emotional, choking it up again and then shutting the doors to Shea Stadium.
I mean,
it's just right, kicking the nuts after that. Total kicking the nuts.
For that group,
it was horrible. So that's why it's like you cannot take these things for granted.
Isn't it crazy? And the Yankee fans are so fortunate. And I know that people say Yankee fans are arrogant in this. And you know what? They should be. They make the playoffs every year. Think about it. That Mets window, it went from all the excitement in the world in 06, on the climb, our town, blah, 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 blah. They lose in disappointing fashion in the NLCS. They collapse in epic proportions in 2007. Disastrous 2008 with Shea, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Like 2009, you open Citi Field, bad team. The Mets then don't spend after that, all the the Madoffs of whatever it may be, for years until 2015.
Yep.
And then here we are. I mean, and then it was just 2015 World Series loss, wild card obviously out, and now here we are again.
Bunch of garbage in between, and now here we are. That's why these
nothing there.
I know. It really is just so many years of September. Gary, Keith, and Ron reading out of the media guide. I mean, that's what we've been pulling baseball cards.
Thank
out.
God for the Yankees.
Right.
I mean, what would we be watching in October, baseball-wise?
I always say if I were a Yankee fan, I would be as arrogant as possible. I'd be, in my car, windows down, playing that Yankee song that they use in the promos. With the middle fingers up in the air. That's what I'd be doing if I was a Yankee fan. Like my plate would be something like, Pinstripe Greg or something like that, If I were a Yankee fan, I would be a miserable son of a bitch to other people. That you would hate me. You would absolutely think about it. Run around Sayville. Yeah. Up yours. Paul Holden.
I root for the greatest team ever.
Yeah. I am a fan of the greatest team of all time. 27 rings, bitches. Honk, 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 honk. I'm going to toss out a couple of names to you. Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle. Ever heard of them? F you, Mets fans. You think Keith McPherson's bad? If I were a Yankee fan, oh, my God. I would be all over everybody. The New York Yankees, Yankee Stadium, pinstripes, 27 championships, the greatest franchise in the world. Up and down the street all day long after every win. All right, that's good.
There's nothing you can say about it either.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's nothing you can say. Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. We've got Sal Licata in for Boomer the rest of the week. He's doing 5 hours today, already logged one in the warm-up show. So it's not like you work at all during the afternoons and nights either, right?
I didn't get to the hotel last night till midnight.
Oh, my God.
It was brutal.
At least you stayed over. That's right. I forgot about that. I thought you were driving in like 3 o'clock this morning.